Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this segment of StillBreathingOnline.com. Today we're going to be talking about the importance and the significance of foster and adoptive parenting. Joining us, we have a very special guest, Mr. Douglas Heath, who is the Director of the Calhoun County Department of Human Resources. Thank you very much for joining me, Doug.
Thank you.
All right. Now, we all know that there are many kids worldwide, especially state to state, who are in custody of the state. We have foster children which are ranging from ages that are younger and younger each year, each month, each day. Now, at what point do we decide to make a difference? At what point do we decide to make a difference in the lives of these children? How can we help some of these children? National statistics show at childwelfare.gov that in 2008, upon September 30th of 2008, there were an estimated 463,000 children living in foster care. Now that's a lot of children, almost 1 million children, and this is of course, across the United States. Now the entries were 273,000, and that's a lot, of course, that's even more. Now this 273,000 contributes to the 463. Okay, and the exits, of course, were 285. So you almost have half the amount coming in, as you do going out. So it's basically like you just replacing those amount of children. And at what point do we make a difference? I mean, how do we get so many of our children to stop going into foster care? What are we doing wrong? Okay, Doug, I thank you so much for joining me today. And like I said, once again, it's just an awesome thing. I'm glad to have you. All right. Now, at what point in your life did you decide, or what made you decide to go into a field where you can help children and help families?
Well, I think that I have always had a rewarding experience every time I've been able to help somebody. I think that had a lot to do with me choosing social work. I think coming from a lower to middle class family, and sometimes needing neighbors and family to help you, that kind of helped contribute to my need to, or want to give back to people that sometimes aren't as fortunate as I was.
That's right. That's a good deal, and that's awesome. Many times we have people, who decide to step up and reach out and make a difference, and that's an important thing. Mr. Heath said that he came from, a middle-class family. He came from a family that needed help, and by people helping him, reaching out to him and making a difference in his life, this is something that made him want to make a difference as well. And I think that's very important, and that's one of the main reasons that I do this. That's one of the main reasons that I enjoy sharing, because people like Doug made a difference in my life. And the knowledge that we gain and the things that we learn, on our day-to-day experiences as we grow and as we go through life, so many of these things can help others, So what can we do? How can we share more to enlighten and, of course, to just help someone? Okay, Doug. Now, why do you feel that this is just not only an important thing to parent biological children, children that are your own, but, children on the outside? A lot of times some people say children that are left behind, children that nobody care about. And of course, people do care, many times they just don't know how. So why is it important for foster parents to step up, or people who want to adopt?
Well, I think that it's important for people to step up because children are our future.
That's right.
And, if I didn't have people to step up when I was younger, I probably wouldn't be in the same situation I was. I look at people and say, that the difference between me and them are sometimes just decisions that were made that my parents could have made differently, or that they didn't make.
That's right.
As far as parents and biological parents, I really don't see a difference in the two. Some of the best parents that I know don't have biological children.
That's right.
And some of the parents that have biological children sometimes aren't the greatest parents either.
That's true.
My wife and I, years ago, we were foster parents, and we probably had 60-something children come through our home, and we still have relationships with a lot of those children. Some of those children have been adopted, and it's a blessing for anyone to be able to give back to these children.
That's right.
And you don't have to be rich. You don't have to have anything that just normal people have, other than wanting to see children succeed and become successful in life.
That's right. That sounds very, very, very just awesome, and that's Just a very great way of putting it. Now, what Mr. He said is, at one point, you know, his career today, what he is he's the director, you know, and that's one thing he's doing. He's not just working with children, but he's working with social workers, he's working with foster parents, he's working with, you know, adopted parents, people that are coming in wanting to make a difference. But all of this started, you know, at a point in his life where he pretty much was maybe we'll say on a smaller scale, and that was just simply open up his doors, him and his wife, open up their home to help children. Now, once again, what is something that maybe you can do? Someone watching that's like he said, you may not be rich, you may not have, you know, a great big mansion and all these fancy things, but you do have doors, you know, if you can, that you can open up to these children. Because so many kids come from a bad situation. I myself, of course, was a foster child for 13 years due to my mother having a mental illness. This was a lady who had no control over a lot of stuff that she was doing. And it took me a long time, you know, to realize that for myself, but I carried a lot of hurt, I carried a lot of pain, and to an extent I felt guilty, you know, like a lot of stuff was my fault because of what me and my brothers had to endure because of our mother. We did not know our fathers, and you have all these children that come from just so many different types of situations, you know, that are traumatic to them. They do hurt them, and these children need love. They need somebody that understands and somebody that cares and just somebody to teach them, you know, and there's just so much you can do by opening up your heart and giving these children a warm embrace and just pretty much letting them know that you care, that you want to share, you understand. Okay, Doug. Now, we have so many people out here in our society today, old and young, that have a negative viewpoint on foster children. It's like they say, well, I don't want to keep kids because they steal, or these kids have mental issues, or these children are violent, criminals, thugs, they maybe do drugs or want to experiment. Now, in your opinion, you know, or from your own experiences, why do you think so many people look down on these children?
Well, one of my favorite things when I go to church, you know, when we had foster children,
That's right.
you know, everybody in the congregation would say, you know, oh, I'm so happy you're doing this. I couldn't do that.
That's right.
And typically I would reply to them, that is something you can do.
That's right.
You just don't want to.
That's it.
You know, there's really no special requirements, and I tell people, you know, that people that say I can't do this, and what they're telling me is basically that I don't want to do this. I'm going to let somebody else do it.
That's right.
And a lot of times there's not somebody else out there, and you know, these kids, you know, yeah, some of them have behavior problems, but you know, all kids have behavior problems. You know, typically when we see teenagers, you know, I have parents sometimes tell me, well, you know, can you talk to my child about this or this? And I'm like, you know, that's being a teenager. You know, I did things when I was a teenager. I'm sure you did.
Yep, that's right.
You know, we get parents a lot of times that say, well, you know, the child is out drinking, or they're you know, promiscuous, or they're doing all these other things, and I'm like, well, you know, some of that's normal childhood stuff that children do, and you know, sometimes parents, you know, want their child to be perfect.
That's right.
And you know, all kids, you know, regardless if they're in foster care, and usually I try to stay away from the term foster children because I think that they're just regular children, but they're in foster care. Their situation is different, but they're still children, just like you and I were.
That's true.
You know, so when people tell me that, you know, that's something they couldn't do, it's to me it's really an excuse, and I think it's up to the adults and people that, you know, that are here to help nurture these children. You know, it doesn't take a lot of money. We have people who receive public assistance that live in the housing authority, and they're some of the best parents that we have because they have those real life experiences, and they understand that money's not what everybody needs. You know, we sometimes have children that come from rich families.
That's right.
And those children are no different than a child that comes from a poorer neighborhood. You know, I think it's society's responsibility to take these children and nurture them and love them and support them so they can grow up to be successful. If not, you know, that's the reason our prison systems are flooding, because we as society has failed these children and these young adults. You know, even if they're not related to, you know, it doesn't take somebody in foster care. You know, I have our teenagers at church. I'm a mentor to one of the children. You know, I know when their birthday is, I'll take them fishing when I get an opportunity. It doesn't
Just
take
going the extra mile.
Yeah, you don't have to be a foster parent, but just to wrap your arms around somebody and say, hey, I care enough about you to want to see you become something.
That's right.
Because that's what a lot of children need. They lack that parent saying that they want to see them succeed.
That is so true. That's a very important point that Mr. Heath made here. Is you may see a child at your church. You may see a child. It may be one of your friends' child. You just see that maybe they're going through a hard time. They maybe just need someone to talk to, or just a listening ear, just someone to, like he said, let them know that you care. Simple things like this means so much, because like he also stated, you have to think back to when you and I were teenagers, how we felt, all the things that we were going through, as we grew. Of course, you remember feeling like nobody understands, maybe nobody cares, or nobody sees things the way I see them, and life is just so hard for me right now. I can't get to this point because I got all of these different things standing in my way, all these different stumbling blocks. Think back to just where you were when you are dealing with these teenagers, as opposed to judging them and just stereotyping them and just kind of pushing them away. Because if no one cares, if no one says, hey, you know what, it's all right to make